Well, as tensions heat up between North Korea and the U.S., some nations are trying to cool things down. President Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping reiterated their mutual commitment to denuclearize the Korean peninsula in a phone call on Friday. Meanwhile, Japan has begun to bring in a missile defense system. In another call, President Trump reassured the governor of Guam that the United States stands ready to ensure their safety. Now, North Korea says that nearly 3.5 million workers, party members, and soldiers volunteered to join or rejoin its army to resist the new UN sanctions and fight against the U.S. Mieke Eoyang is the vice president of Third Wave National Security. She joins us now in Washington to discuss the latest on North Korea. Thank you so much for joining us. So we're seeing a lot of tough talk on military posturing from both North Korea and the United States. Now Japan saying they're readying a missile defense system, but there's no action yet. What do you expect and see coming in this latest round here?
So it's actually a very tense situation, and I think it's really troubling. We see a lot of tough talk on both sides. We haven't seen a lot of preparations for war. A war, if it happened, would be devastating. We're talking about nearly 30,000 American troops on the Korean Peninsula, over 100 or hundreds of thousands of American citizens who work and do business there and go to school there. We're talking about a population in South Korea of 50 million that's all within reach of North Korea's conventional missiles. If this conflict blows up, it could go very quickly. What we need to see is de-escalation, people talking through their tensions. But unfortunately, the president keeps ratcheting up the pressure. He kept talking about his previous statements were not tough enough. And so I'm not quite sure how much more tough talk the president can offer in this situation.
So Mieke, you were just saying that when you're looking at the situation there on the peninsula, there's going to be, they're conducting exercises on the Korean peninsula later this month, while North Korea has warned them against this. What's your take on this amid this escalating tension? Could that maybe be the next flashpoint?
So I think North Korea is trying to intimidate the U.S. and its allies from doing the normal things that they would be doing. We are in an treaty alliance with both the Japanese and the Koreans, where we've committed to defend each other. And so it's normal that treaty allies would do exercises together to make sure that everyone's prepared and that we're interoperable. The North Koreans shouldn't be able to back us down from this. On the flip side, the North Koreans themselves keep testing their nuclear weapons, and that is what really raises tensions, especially when they point them in the direction of the U.S. or its allies.
So if the U.S. were to back down from flying this exercise in the next few weeks, does that make the U.S. look weak for backing down on a threat that the North Koreans have made?
It doesn't make any sense for the U.S. to back down on this. These exercises are very complicated to plan, and they're normal parts of what our U.S. military does. So backing down off of this would actually be really troubling. What's more important is that we're opening lines of communication to make very clear to the North Koreans what kind of behavior would provoke a retaliatory response, having conversations with the Chinese about how to lower tensions on the peninsula, and talking to our South Korean and Japanese allies to make sure that we understand what their red lines are. This is a president who has not always been the best at coordinating and taking into consideration the needs of other countries.
And Guam, obviously a big focus now. The governor of Guam released a statement on Facebook recently regarding a conversation that he had with the president. I want to play that for you.
I just got off the phone with the Chief of Staff, General John Kelly, as well as with our president, the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And they called me from the White House this morning, and both assured me that the people of Guam are safe. And in the President's words, they are behind us 1,000%. As the head of the government of Guam, I appreciate their reassurances that my family, my friends, and everyone on this island, that we are all safe. And I appreciate the President's leadership. He's providing a very clear message that any threat to Americans, whether it is here in our island paradise in the Western Pacific, or in California, or in New York, that he will ensure our protection.
Mieke, do you think that you believe the North Koreans that they'll actually follow through on this threat of attacking Guam?
I don't think so. I think, like the president, the North Korean leadership likes to bluster. I think they recognize that if they actually hit Guam, their entire country would be destroyed, and that's if they shoot first. The Chinese have said that if the North Koreans shoot first, they're not interested in defending them. But likewise, the Chinese have issued a stern warning against the U.S. from the U.S. firing first. So really, we're in a very tense standoff here, and the risk is that someone will get nervous and actually pull the trigger.
Why do you think it is? The North Koreans, it's my understanding, have the ability to shell right over that border with South Korea and cause serious damage. Why do you think it is they haven't done that?
I think they recognize if they were to try and shoot at South Korea with their conventional military, that they would also see their country destroyed. We are committed in the United States to South Korea's defense. So if the North Koreans were to try to attack South Korea, we have a large troop presence there, and we would be firing back at them immediately.
And the fact that China says if the U.S. preemptively were to attack North Korea, that they would remain neutral. What do you make of that statement?
So they actually said that if the U.S. or its allies tried to remove the regime in North Korea or the missiles or their nuclear weapons by force, that they would stop them from doing that. That is a strong warning from the Chinese that the U.S. should also not take preemptive military action. But they would not help the North Koreans if the North Koreans were the ones to fire first. What's interesting about that is the Chinese are now saying what the international rules should be when entering into force. And this is not a role that we've seen China take in the past. It's one that the U.S. has typically played, about telling everyone, nobody fire first, and we will make sure that peace is maintained. Now the Chinese are issuing that kind of warning to the United States.
Yeah, very important point. Mieke Eoyang, thank you very much for joining us, Mieke.
Thank you.